Good afternoon, everybody. I'm your host, Crystal. This is another edition of the 9 o'clock Meltdown podcast. And over speakerphone, I have the wonderful and beautiful and very talented Ian Alexy. Hello, sir.
Hi, Crystal. Thank you for that introduction.
Anytime. I've had you on the show multiple times before. I think you were one of my first interviews, actually.
On the radio? Or?
Yes, on the radio when I was...
Okay, cool.
Before I moved to the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
Things have come full circle.
Yeah, sure. Well, always happy to talk to you.
Excellent. So you just released a new album, Troubadour, or 21st Century Troubadour. I do apologize.
Well, it's actually Troubadour 21st Century.
Oh, man, I got it backwards.
There was actually someone else out there. I believe he's an Irish singer-songwriter that has a record called 21st Century Troubadour. So I did the old flipperoo.
Nice.
Troubadour 21st Century.
All right, excellent. I love the concept for the album. I own it. I've been listening to it, and honestly, the title track on it really kind of just rings with me. I also watched the music video for it too. In the music video, it just seems like you were having a ton of fun with it. The music video kind of goes back and forth between you just kind of standing in a room by yourself singing to old videos of past presidents and fields and things like that. Let's dive into this.
Well, it started with the song. So I wrote the song. It's actually a few years old now. I was living in Menominee, Wisconsin, and I had moved there. I was in Minneapolis for 8 years before that, and Menominee was sort of a place to go to get out of the city. It's a pretty small college town. It's a university town, but it's pretty small other than that. And I barely even knew anyone. I just got an apartment and moved over there. I think I knew 2 people that lived there. So I felt very free in a weird way with my sort of creativity when I was writing. And that song was just something that I thought was sort of funny. The whole thing is, it's kind of ironic. And I was actually, this is sort of embarrassing, but I was watching YouTube videos of the wrestler Ric Flair, not wrestling, but talking, like doing his promotional clips or interviews or whatever. And he's very over the top, extremely braggadocious, just really ridiculous and really funny. So I was sort of thinking, like, wouldn't it be funny if a singer-songwriter, if I wrote a song like sort of coming from this sort of space. So it was something I was just doing to entertain myself, and I didn't even play it for anybody for a while. And then but then when I recorded it and made a demo of it, I was like, this is pretty fun. I like this. And then the samples of presidents, which then carried over into the video. So I'm not sure how that started. Again, it was just a song that I felt really free with because it was nothing like what I usually do. And so having the samples of the presidents to me was sort of ironic because you have the narrative of the vocal, which would be me, sort of bragging about being a independent artist that's like pretty much totally on their own. And then you have the voices of these great leaders of history sort of chiming in. So I thought that was really funny, just the contrast there. So I sort of like imagined the Troubadour 21st Century sort of running around doing these little gigs and sort of existing in the margins of society, which is in a way what I've done. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's been a wonderful way for me to exist as a musician. But I thought it was really funny to sort of contrast that against voices of like Obama and Kennedy. So
Yeah, the music video is tons of fun. If you haven't seen it yet, I suggest jumping up on YouTube and watching it right now. Stop this interview and watch the music video right now.
So for the video, I had to go back and find the video footage of like Obama, for example. I sampled him in the song, and then when I made the video, I was like, I got to find where he said that sample. And I actually, one of the things I did on this is there's a website that has an archive of American presidential speeches.
Oh.
And because it's the president speaking to the people, being
Mm-hmm.
us, that's why I was able to sample it, because it's really public property.
Oh.
And I actually cleared it with the website where they have all the speeches and everything. But anyway, so that was part of the reason too why those voices in particular were sampled, because I can do it legally. You can't just sample like, I don't know, like The Rock from a movie or something like that.
Right, right.
But anyway, so then I found the samples. The ones of Obama are actually it's not exactly a speech. He was sort of roasting Donald Trump and other people. Went back towards the end of Obama's presidency.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a White House dinner or something like that. But anyway, then I found the footage and matched it up. And then there's also footage of Albert Einstein in there.
Mm-hmm.
Which I was just interested in him because I was reading a biography about him, and I thought that he sort of fit the narrative in a sort of abstract way.
Yeah, the music video itself is fabulous, and you do this beautiful blend of splicing everything together. And I was going to say, Obama kind of did sound like he was roasting Donald Trump there in the samples that you had, and it brought a smile to my face. It's no secret that it's no secret that I'm more of a liberal than anything else. So thank you,
Yeah,
Ian.
I mean, I was also trying to not make it politically motivated in any way.
Right.
Like, to me, the voices in there are a sort of contrast to my voice. They're not really, although there is a Bernie line in there that I guess is where he says, "We can create the country we want to become," or something like that. And I'm down with that. And I am a liberal person, but I also don't. I really have a distaste for the sort of political struggle going on right now. That's so like exacerbated by social media and everything. It's kind of. I don't really like to partake in that at all.
Yes, no, Ian, I am right there with you. I'm right there with you. And now, Ian, you've actually been at this music thing for quite a while. I own all of your albums, all the way from the very beginning until now. I think the first album that you had, you were very young and did a bunch of like jazz guitar chords.
Yeah.
And then you have another one that's under the title of Broken Billy. I really like that one. It's really smooth, very bluesy, and just kind of watching the progression of you as a musician, and each album kind of changes for you.
Yeah.
It's just really cool. And now this one, Troubadour, is not necessarily a 180, but quite different from the ones that you've put out in the past. Was that just because of lockdown, or just a natural kind of progression in your musicianship?
Yeah, good question. It was finished before lockdown, actually.
Okay.
So it didn't have anything to do with that. At the onset of making that album, the first sort of group of songs were the more folky songs, and I recorded those in Menominee at a studio called Drum Farm, which is like literally on a farm, and it's like what I would imagine Neil Young's ranch studio to be like. It's really great. Great engineer and producer John Richardson owns the place. So I started thinking like, I'm going to do an all the way through, straight ahead Americana album, and I was kind of listening to like Sturgill Simpson and Chris Stapleton and Margot Price and that sort of new Nashville sound or whatever it is. So that's what I started out doing. And then I finished the first batch of songs, and then at the same time I was kind of messing around with stuff on GarageBand and using effects and making these more like rock pop sort of tracks, which is what became the other half of the album. So my intention was to do like singer-songwriter Americana thing all the way through, but I don't know. I have difficulty kind of staying in one lane. Maybe I'll do that at some point. It's just I kind of have to go where the muse leads me, or where my creativity leads me. So it kind of led me into other things, I guess.
Right. And Ian, during your live shows, I mean, you sing your own music, of course, and then kind of sprinkle in some covers in there. But really, in your live shows, you're not necessarily all over the map, but you don't stick to one lane. So I can see where, you take that aspect of your live shows and kind of put it in your albums.
Yeah. The two sort of feed each other, because then then when you've got an album recorded, like with this one, we hadn't done all the songs live prior to the album coming out, and so so it can kind of go either way. But yeah,
Right.
and try to be aware of like what audiences like, and I don't want to just be a completely. I don't want to be an artist that's in solitude. I mean, I'd like to true to the things that I love, but music is for people. It's not. It's not just for me. So I try and be aware of what goes on. And I go to a lot of people's shows, especially now after the lockdown and everything. I've been kind of going out and watching what everybody's doing locally.
Excellent. How was it for you kind of coming out of lockdown? I mean, I believe at the time we're down in Wisconsin, and Wisconsin kind of lifted everything before everybody else. So was it strange for you to be out and about?
Well, I've been in Superior for the last like 6 months or so.
Oh, okay.
I mean, which is still Wisconsin, but I'm right over the bridge from Duluth. Over the winter, I was really pretty isolated. Wasn't really going out much at all. And then I don't know. It just seems like all of a sudden it's like game on. But in Wisconsin, I mean, there were, I guess the bars in Wisconsin and stuff were open all winter, but I never went to any of them. I mean, I don't really go out to bars anyway. I don't drink much anymore. So.
All right, right on. You just
when
go and
there's music
entertain.
involved, though, I like to be out.
Same with me. If there's music involved, I'll go. Although on a more personal note, I haven't been really, quote, out in a year, so I don't know, this whole thing of everything's being lifted and you can go out now is still kind of new to me, I think. And I think it's new to a lot of people. But speaking of which...
I think so too. I think for myself, I'm okay with it, or like I'm ready for it. I'm not, having anxiety problems or anything like that. I just played a show down in Menominee. I keep mentioning this mysterious town. Last weekend, and I went down there and I camped out, and the show was outside at a brewery called Nonic Brewery. It was just great, man. It was so just great to play for people. Everybody was really happy and kind of like engaged with the music, which was nice. And yeah, just camping out and being like, oh yeah, I used to do this kind of thing all the time. It kind of feels good to do it again.
Mm-hmm. Well, good. I'm glad you got out and kind of got to experience that. But talking about live shows, you have anything lined up for June or July, or are you just going to kind of take them as they come?
Yeah, I'm at Earth Rider in Superior on June 13th.
Okay.
I believe that's a Sunday afternoon, so I'm playing pretty early that day. Let me look at my calendar here.
It's all good.
Yeah, June 13th at 1 p.m. at Earth Rider in Superior. And the night before, June 12th, I'll be at the Ripple with Mark Gartman doing his Grateful Dead, Gartman Plays Dead.
Oh, perfect. I actually just ran into Mark earlier this week. It was fabulous to see him again. So, fabulous. So you guys will be playing that, and then you've got a solo show going on. Are they shows outside? Are they inside? What kind of parameters?
Well, the one at the Ripple is inside, I believe.
Okay.
Unless something has changed. But the Earth Rider one will be outside.
Okay, perfect. So people can kind of expect to be maybe more socially distanced still, or are all hats off?
The last time I played at the Ripple was a few weeks ago, and there was a limit of how many people could come in, and you had to wear a mask until you got to your table. But I don't know if that's still the case or not. I would recommend people call ahead if they're concerned about that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Strange times we live in, right?
Yeah, it is. Although it feels like, it really does feel like we're coming out of it now.
Yeah, moving in the right direction.
Yeah. It seemed like everything was sort of slow, and then all of a sudden that we kind of reached a tipping point.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, Ian, has any of the kind of past year, 2020, now that we're in 2021, but has any of that, whether politically or socially, kind of come through or bled through on this album?
Politically or socially? Let's see. Yeah. There's a song on there called You Got It Coming, which I started writing at the beginning of the Trump presidency, and I had the music pretty much finished in the beginning, and I was having trouble with the lyrics, which is not usually the case for me. Usually I can, whether they're good or bad, usually I can get lyrics down pretty easily. And this one I was really kind of stumped on, and because the subject matter was sort of political and everything was so confusing politically that the song was just, it was difficult. It was difficult to make a clear statement about it, about anything, or it's certainly difficult to make a productive statement about anything, because everything was, it was just confusing. So some time went by and I went back to the song, and the lyric that came out was about the spin machine. Basically what that is when the media takes a topic and one station, let's say CNN, spins it one way and then Fox spins it the other way, but it's the same topic, so they just create a sort of conflict between the left and the right about the topic. So that was the thing that is sort of the most scary to me, although there's a lot of scary aspects. I mean, the sort of any sort of right wing, this is so hard to talk about. There's nothing wrong with the right wing. Extremists, white power, anything like that, I mean, it's absolutely horrifying. But when you're talking about sort of general people, that some of them might be Republicans, some are Democrats, just creating this huge rift and a huge fight between them, that sort of bothers me, and especially when it's exacerbated with social media and social media algorithms, that have nothing to do with truth. It just has to do with keeping you on the computer, keeping you on Facebook. So send any piece of news at you that will cause an emotional reaction to keep you on the platform. So I don't know if you've seen the Social Dilemma documentary.
I have not,
Netflix,
but I've heard good things.
Recommend watching it, because they really explain all this really well. So anyway, for me, that's the most scary thing, is sort of misinformation and sort of turning people against each other through misinformation, just in the name of profit. And it's also computers controlling the algorithms. So it's not even like, a group of people saying, hey, we want this agenda pushed forward. It's just an algorithm that's trying to keep people on their computers. And now I'm starting to sound crazy.
Ian, it's okay.
This is what we've come to. It's like the Terminator for real.
Yeah.
Some of that is in that song. Although I don't write songs. I don't write topical songs. In other words, I don't say, hey, I feel this way about this issue, and I'm going to get my point across through song because I'm a songwriter. I don't do that ever. I would probably write really terrible songs if I tried, because the way that I write songs is much more, they just sort of come to me when I'm in a state of not thinking about what I want to write about, or not thinking about controlling anything. I'm just sort of playing the guitar, and I kind of get into a meditative state, and I sort of hear something, and then I start writing it down. And I try not to even think too hard about what it is while it's coming out. It's like letting it out. And even with the song You've Got It Coming, it does reflect some of those sort of political and social problems that we're dealing with. But I wasn't trying to, stand on a soapbox about anything.
And Ian, that's kind of one of the things I've always liked about your music, is you don't take a super, soapboxy approach to anything. You take a very kind of humanist approach. And I'm talking about all your albums and all your records, all your singles and songs, really. And especially with 21st, I could really hear that. It was a very kind of humanist approach of, hey, especially in that song of, hey, like, look at this. And now, Ian, you said some things that kind of interested me. You talked about social media a bit and just kind of staying off the platform. Has that kind of helped you write better music, or kind of has that hindered you? Because as an independent artist, I mean, social media seems to be the way that people get their art out and get noticed. Obviously, you're still doing social media, for your music and things like that. Kind of how has that changed for you, if I may ask?
Well, I didn't. Well, I still use it. I mean, I like Instagram. That's the one I find myself just sort of on a lot. obviously I'm promoting my music on it, but sometimes I'll just, see what my friends are up to and all that. So I use social media. I just don't get involved in sort of political discussions. I try not to vent on, if something crappy happens to me. I think there's a tendency to like make a sort of funny or sarcastic tweet. I try to never ever do that. I used to do that. So I just try and create boundaries for myself around it, because it's not, I don't think that it's all bad. I think it's good in a lot of ways. It's just that we haven't gotten to a point with it where it's been regulated in any way. So again, this is going to this social dilemma documentary. It's kind of where I'm getting my information on this. So I think it should be regulated so that people aren't so manipulated by it. But I think as a sort of connection and sharing things, I think it's great.
I agree. And Ian, you said something interesting before, that we're almost in this Terminator kind of era. And I was going to follow that up with, we do actually have a Skynet. Skynet does exist. I can't remember if it's in Japan or China at this time, but Skynet does exist. So a little scary for those of us who grew up with the Terminator films. And
yeah, it seems like the powers that be are often following like sci-fi movies.
right.
That's how powerful those Steven Spielbergs and George Lucases are. They sort of created the future.
I know, isn't that crazy? Well, now Ian, you've been an independent artist for many, many years. How has things changed for you from the beginning until now? I mean, obviously the internet is a huge way to reach a lot of people now. Your music has changed. The way you produce music has changed as well. Is it more difficult now as an independent artist than it was back in the day?
That's a good question. I don't know if it's more difficult. It has changed. Performing live has been the one constant, or other, except for this last year, of course. And that's what getting started, or since I started, that's what I always thought my job would be, is playing concerts or shows and getting paid for them. So that's the thing that has sort of kept me going, is just being able to do that with a certain amount of consistency. As far as recording and releasing music, that's changed a lot, because I started kind of at the end of the CD era. Napster had happened, and it was starting to get into the streaming things, but CDs were still sort of the most popular way that people consumed music. So between myself and the Hobo Nephews, we sold thousands of CDs, and we all over the country, because we toured all over the country. So we did well with that, and I guess we would all, make money on our albums in that way. So now I'm still getting CDs, and I'll still sell CDs, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do vinyl for this release or not. But so you still sell merch, but you sell less. And then with streaming, the good thing about it, I think, is the potential, is that it's out there, and the number of streams you could get is unlimited. The number of people that can be exposed to it is unlimited. Whereas if you print 1,000 CDs, the reach of that is much more limited than just having it out there on the internet. Yeah, I mean, even just from this release to the last release I did, which was about 3 years ago, things have changed so much, and I'm just trying to keep up with everything and stay in the game as it changes. So there's things I like about it. I mean, as a music fan, I love streaming. I have Apple Music, and I use it every day.
Right, and actually, this is how I purchased your 21st album. Was on iTunes, actually.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, iTunes is still, it's still a thing. You can still do that. I was sort of, when I got Apple Music, I was sort of confused if I still had access to iTunes, but then I saw that I did. But anyway, there's a lot of potential with it. And the other thing, the advantage over CD is, even though the amount you get per stream is very small, there's that unlimited potential of how many times it can be streamed. And I just try and look at the positive of it, I guess.
Right. So it almost sounds like, because you get unlimited amount of streams, and yes, the revenue isn't as great as it would be, but it seems like it's prolonged. Whereas if you sell a CD, it's kind of that one hit of, maybe $10 or $11 or what have you But then with streams, it just keeps kind of compounding on itself.
Yeah, compounding. Yeah, good way to look at it. Yeah.
I try. I try and be smart sometimes. And now, Ian, during lockdown, you actually did a couple live stream shows on Facebook and YouTube and a couple other platforms. How did that go over for you? I know talking to Mary Bew, she did a couple live shows, and she always told me that, there wasn't that audience reaction when you were done with a show. So it almost leaves you a little raw. How was your live streams?
Mostly really good. There is that in between songs because you're so used to saying thank you or whatever. So takes a little getting used to. But for the most part, it's great. And now that I'm getting back to live shows as well, I'm sort of excited with the prospect of being able to do both. So that really adds that's one of the nice things about this last year, is that just adds a whole nother way to perform and way to reach people. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is that with going live from your own page, like on Facebook, say, is great because the people that like your page are the people that like you or like your music or have some connection to you. So it's almost like having your own venue. Okay. Because sometimes the shows that I would do straight from my own Facebook page would do much better than shows I would do from streaming from a venue. And that's not because the venue didn't have as much reach necessarily, that maybe they had more reach than I do, but the people that follow me on my page are like my people, mm-hmm. Where the people from the venue, some of them be fans of me and some of them might not. So that was kind of an interesting thing about it. It's just to kind of reach out to those people that, follow you on Facebook and stuff in a, direct way.
Mm-hmm. And with reaching out on Facebook and things like that, I mean, you can reach a multitude of people. You can perform for someone in New York and Duluth, Minnesota, and, up in Canada. So the reach is there as well.
Mm-hmm. For sure, yeah.
Perfect, Ian. Absolutely wonderful to hear. Your album is out now. You've got a couple music videos for it. What is next for you, besides the couple shows that you've got coming up?
Hi.
Hello. I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Yay, the internet. It's Skynet. They heard that we were talking about them.
Yeah, we got to shut this call down.
and that phone call. They know too much. So, Ian, your new album is out. You've got a couple music videos for it. You've got some shows coming up. What is next for Ian Alexy?
Over the lockdown, I started working on more music. So I have demos for another album. So I'll start working on that. But I don't want to talk too much about that one because I want to get this one out there. Promoting this album, the actual release show in Duluth is going to be on August 27th at Earth Rider.
Okay.
And we're bringing back the Northern Train Festival, which was a festival that Teague and I and the Hobo Nephews would do in Holyoke, and then we did it at Montserrat, and now it's going to be at Earth Rider. So that's on August 27th, so excited for that. And also I have my documentary project to finish.
Oh, yes, your documentary. You've been releasing that in stages. What brought about making a documentary? Was it just something that you've always wanted to do, or did you have a lot of downtime because of lockdown?
Both, yeah. I had the opportunity to do it because of the lockdown. And the real sort of lockdown part of it is when I started and put a lot of the initial work in. But basically, I've always been interested in filmmaking, and we talked about my video for Troubadour 21st Century. That I make videos. So I bought a video camera about 12 years ago or so, and would take it on the road on the Hobo Nephews tours, and when I was out by myself too, and just film whenever I felt like it. I didn't know what I was filming for necessarily. And then during the lockdown, I started looking at the footage, and I was like, okay, I can make something out of this. Mm-hmm. So that's how it started. So
in your documentary, it's footage of you out on the road, also with your brother Teague for the band Hobo Nephews. What else is in the documentary? I mean, what kind of narrative are you putting forward?
The narrative sort of looking at the touring and the life of the musician from the perspective of being sort of locked down in the pandemic. That was the first 2 episodes were more or less coming from that angle. And now for the second 2 is going to be more about coming out of it.
Okay.
Yeah, the first two are fairly dark, especially the second one gets pretty dark.
Uh-oh.
Although, which is great. I mean, I think I was being pretty real with myself in it, and I really like it. I sort of knew all along, like, okay, well, this pandemic is going to end, and that'll be sort of my way to come out of this as far as the documentary. I didn't want it to just be 4 parts of gloom and doom.
We've had enough of that over the last year. It's now
Yeah.
summer is upon us. New things are happening. The grass is green again. So yes, I agree. Perfect timing.
Yeah, and as far as the future, I'm really into taking care of my health, my mental health and physical health. I actually listened to your podcast with Ryan Van Sluten from a week or two ago. He was talking a lot about how changing his health has really changed his life, and I don't think I'm on the level of Ryan with working out or anything like that. But I did change my diet quite a bit a few years ago, and that's kind of given me a new lease on life, to use a cliche.
Well, excellent, Ian. Great to hear. And, along with the interview I did with Ryan and along with you, I've actually kind of changed my health around too, and my mental health as well. It's an ongoing process. So, yeah,
it takes work, but I mean, it's so worth it. I mean, for me, it's just like reading books, and I'm trying to understand how my mind works and stuff like that has been really helpful.
Very cool. Yes, our creative souls never stop doing what they're doing and never stop asking why.
Absolutely.
Ian, thank you so much for taking time out of your day.
Thank you, Crystal, and thanks for your contribution to the music community. It really is great, for you to reach out and help us share what we do and just kind of bring the community together.
Oh, thank you.
Just want you to know that you're very appreciated.
Oh, thank you so much, Ian. I appreciate you too. Ian Alexy, everybody, his documentary is out on YouTube, and then his new album is out on all the platforms as well. Troubadour 21st Century. Ian, thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you in person.
Yeah, likewise. Bye, Crystal.
Yes, have a great day.
Okay, too.
Obviously, we all know about your credentials and breadth of experience.
My fellow citizens of the world.
1, 2, 3, 4, give me some more. I'm the 21st century troubadour. 5, 6, 7, 8, you can't let it be. I'm the troubadour, 21st century. 1, 2, 3, 4, a self-made man. I got a new record now in the can. 5, 6, 7, take it to the club. I sell it from the stage, getting all the love. 1, 2, 3, 4, you take it for free. Well, I hope you're entertained in spite of me. But I said 5, 6, 7, I sing in the streets, just playing my guitar and busking to the beat. Nothing to record, I'm so far ahead, just making it up off the top of my head. 1, 2, 3, 4, you give me the shakes. I'm driving all night on the interstate. Hey, hey.
He's taking some flight lately.
And there are even a few who say that it's true.
Well, I get home like 4 a.m. and there's nobody waiting to see where I've been. I lay on my back, I smoke my head, and I hide my cash down underneath the bed. 1, 2, 3, 4, paying the rent while I drive back and forth across the continent. 5, 6, 7, 8, I'm looking great. A national act in the United States.
We can create the nation we want to become, quite honestly.
The country clubs and the cocktail parties
I'm the troubadour, 21st century.
And there are even a few who say that it's true.